Hey, everybody. Good Monday morning, March 9th. Temperatures looking good for the next couple days, into the 60s. Last night at the Sabres game on the way in, Sneaky Joe wore shorts out of commitment to wear shorts to the game.
I did.
Because a week ago the forecast was for like 70 degrees. It was not 70.
Hey, it was great. Once he got out of the wind, it was totally fine.
True. Sal was at the game last night as well. We'll talk about that a little bit, get your take on it, Sal. And also, we got things to check in on the Bills as legal tampering opens today. The league year starts this week. We got Connor McGovern. We got Taron Johnson. We got some reports out there about the Bills' pursuit of other ideas. But before all that, Sal, I saw you at the game last night after the first period. And even after the first period, you can attest to this. We're both just saying, like, what a game. It's 1-0, and this is amazing. And, of course,
there were going to be 14 more goals.
Right, 14 goals later, it was pretty darn good.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you and I, we were able to chat longer because we couldn't move in the corridors because it was so packed in that arena last night, which, obviously it's a great thing because people are coming back and the energy in the building was unmatched, in what we've seen in so many years. It was great. It's great to experience it with Max, to have that kind of a game. I was just telling him, the stat you guys had this morning of, the first time, seventh time in NHL history with 100 penalty minutes, 15 goals. It was a wild game. It was just awesome. It was electric. So just dialed in right now on what's happening with this team and this city and loving hockey again. And, I said, and I tweeted this morning that I've never believed you've gotten the calls over the years. I'll never go back. They've lost me. We got those during the Bills drought.
Yeah.
But the response I've always had is that's not the case. This is Buffalo. We all know what hockey means to Buffalonians and to Sabres fans. And when they start winning, you're going to go back. And that's what happened last night. It was fantastic last night. I have to ask you guys a question. Are we allowed, and would it be too jinxy? Because I think we're past the point where you can't do it, and you got to be able to do it at some point. Can we have a playoff pool, like a baby pool, like the date they clinch?
Yeah.
Or is that too jinxy?
No, it's not. It can't be that jinxy because, I said today they're going to make it, and that's pretty jinxy.
I looked up yesterday before the game the earliest they can mathematically clinch, which is March 22nd. Ooh. So, that's probably unlikely, but it'll probably be early in April. So, we could. Draft games.
Yeah, it was awesome last night, though. Yeah, it was great last night for sure.
Yeah, they'll be clinching a spot, and then they'll be clinching what spot it will be. And, this matchup with Tampa. Sal, we've seen this kind of stuff, like rivalries, right? The Bills, since the Bills have gotten better, we've had these little rivalries with the Dolphins, with the Chiefs, with the Bengals, and maybe here come the Patriots again to kind of rebirth this. And last night felt like maybe we're about to start one with Tampa.
Yeah, and if you're a bit of an OG Sabres person or old guy like me these days and remember the playoff series with the Bruins and the Nordique back in the 80s and all the fights that went along with that and, Kevin Miller, Bruce Shoebottom, and what a name, right? These guys going at it on a nightly basis and Mike Hartman, there was just all these guys, all the guys that were just getting into fights every night. And it was a different time period then, right? It was just accepted. And when you went to a game, you expected all these fights. I think we were expecting something physical from the Lightning last night. I know I was after what happened when they most recently played in Tampa. But that kind of went above and beyond my expectations last night, what was going on. And I agree with you guys. This is laying the groundwork for two things. A, maybe them meeting up again in the playoffs this year, right? I think that's like a message being sent from each team. What was Yarmo's message? Teams are trying to push us around. We're not going to be able. That's not going to happen. They added some guys to say that's not going to happen. I think the Lightning had that in their mind. We're going to show them. We're going to go in there and push them around. The Sabres said, not only can we push back at you, we're going to score goals on you too, which is awesome. But I agree with you, Jeremy. This is also laying the groundwork maybe for a rivalry for the next several years.
Yeah. Sal Capaccio joining us on the Western Hotline. All right, Sal, we'll dip into some football stuff here. If you want to call about the Sabres, we'll get back to hockey in a bit. We're talking to Dan Dunleavy, who had the call last night's game, coming up at 9 o'clock. But we did have Bills news over the weekend. Connor McGovern re-signs, and the story might be that he and Brandon Beanside hadn't really talked that much, and all of a sudden it comes together quickly, and McGovern is here. And, Sal, I feel like the number also is a lot lower than people might have projected because the center market is expected to explode. And for McGovern, it's 4 for 52, which seems fine, I think.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, I'll correct myself. I think I said Kevin Miller. I meant Kevin McGuire. Before people start tweeting me and say, wait a minute, what are you doing? All right, so listen. This was – I never thought they'd be able to retain McGovern.
Uh-oh, we're losing Sal. Going through a dead spot. We'll give it
don't have the money. McGovern and Edwards are both going to get good contracts. I'll also tell you, I know for sure that Connor McGovern loves Buffalo. He loves playing in Buffalo. The Bills gave him a shot to play center. That's what he wants. Center. he wanted to play center. He's a center at Penn State. So whatever the reports were, and we all heard them, right? There were reports that they hadn't met, and then reports there they did meet with his reps at the combine. Look, I mean, I like I said about the Dawson Knox stuff a couple weeks ago, Brandon Beane knows that there's a certain time period you got to get things done. It didn't have to be necessarily a rush. I think what happened here was the two sides both kind of felt out the market and the value. They knew that Connor McGovern wanted to come back. The Bills really love Connor McGovern. I don't think that means they don't like Cedric Van Pran Granger. But, man, when you have Connor McGovern and you can bring him back for a $13 million a year deal, considering what the center market is and could be, the Bills said, okay, let's do it. Connor McGovern said, let's do it, and things work out.
I wondered, too, Sal, like if the story could have really even kind of sparked a talk of maybe Beane or the Bills are thinking, this guy is going to get $20 million on the open market, the center market being what it is. Guys are retiring, and that now there are more teams with needs. And, oh, wait, okay, sounds like he is almost offended by not having talks. Like, we'd be willing to do something, and we just don't think it's near what your market is. And then McGovern says, no, yeah, I'm good. I was willing to take a hometown discount the whole time. Because I think both sides would probably know he definitely could have gotten more on the open market.
Yeah, probably right, Joe. And I think that could happen, right? Where you start to hear that and you poke in, wait a minute, like, let's make sure we're on the same page here. And also, let's remember, I mean, for the first time in 9 years, the Bills are doing a head coach search, right? And I mean, that probably took up a little bit of, the time that would normally to kind of go into a lot of these things. Not that you can't multitask, but it does kind of eat into a little bit of your off season. So you have to kind of make sure you process everything, get to where you need to be, and they do that. I also say, to your point about, guys retiring, things like that, I don't think it's coincidence to me that the Bears, who are rumored to be a team that will be in on, and why wouldn't they be on McGovern? They trade for Bradbury, and then the next day McGovern signs with the Bills, right? So there's a team that gets eaten up by, they don't have a spot anymore, right? So yeah, I just think this is a good deal for both sides. They still have cap issues, obviously, and oh, by the way, so everybody is aware, because of Connor McGovern's original deal, his void year did hit. So the Bills still have to count $4.8 million of dead cap money this year on top of whatever they signed him for this year. So it's not, I mean, it is a $52 million deal, 32 guaranteed, I believe it was, 35. But they do have to count close to $5 million of dead cap on top of that because the void year did hit, triggering the dead cap hit before this happened.
Okay, so it's what his cap hit will be on the new deal plus the 4.8. That was going to be on there, though, no matter what, whether he was on the team
yes.
or not.
Yeah, that is exactly right, yes.
What about Taron Johnson for that and the dead cap hit that they take? And is it any different given that they trade him versus release him?
No, sorry, Joe. No difference for his cap hit. The Bills are still going to save $1.9 million. They're still basically eating close to what I think is about $9 million in change in dead cap, 8.9, whatever it was right there, right around $9 million, whatever the number was originally. It's right there. The only difference is the Raiders take on his base salary to pay him and say, okay, we'll take him now instead of having him be released. And, 31 other teams will have a shot at him. The Raiders do that. They take on his base salary, but the dead cap hit for Taron Johnson stays the same.
Okay, so him personally, he gets to stay on the same contract then, right? For now, like the money will be the same for him. And they get a little bit of a pick, slide, 7th to 6th, nothing crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think so. What happened here to me was the Raiders basically said, let's not let this guy go to free agency. We really like him. I mean, we got to take on his salary, and the Bills are like, okay, well, we'll make the deal, but we got to get something in return if you want to do that. Because what's the point? Okay, we'll swap 7 and 6. So the Bills now they don't have a second round pick still. They have a first, a third, a fourth, a fifth. They picked up from the, and then 2 6ths and a 7th, I believe is what it is now. I have to go back and check, but I believe that's what it is now.
Sal Capaccio. Sal, one other non-Buffalo piece of news that Max Crosby got traded for 2 first-round picks to the Ravens. Albert Bray reporting the Bills were in on that. It would have been a big price, like 2 firsts, having already given up your second. Whatever. I feel comfortable saying I probably would not have done 2 firsts for Max Crosby before it all happened. But the Bills could, of course, get aggressive in the edge market today, right? Legal tampering. Trey Hendrickson is a big fish that maybe they could be after as well. When looking at their cap situation, do you feel like there's still room if they want to go for a really big fish to do it? I mean, DJ Moore is a big name and a big salary, but the restructuring gets him down low. for a cap hit this year, which for me makes me feel like they could, especially in free agency, right? Free agency is different than trades because you have to be under at all times. So you agree to this deal, and as long as the first year cap hit is low, like they could sign a Hendrickson in the right scenario.
Yeah, and it's funny because you're seeing all these reports about where the Bills are with their cap, and they still have to clear X amount of dollars. By the way, Ed Oliver restructure over the weekend too that happened, right? So that's another $10 million they cleared, and on top of that, the reports are, well, they still have $12 million to go to be under the cap. All right, so I'll try to explain this best I can. All these things are happening; they can't be official until the new league year. You can release a guy, but you can't make a trade. So right now, the Bills, DJ Moore is not on their roster. The trade is not official. When the trade becomes official, which will be basically they can sign the paperwork Wednesday at 4 p.m. Once that happens, his contract will transfer to the Bills, and he is due $23.5 million. That's the cap for the Bills. Well, they have to have the room to make that happen at that minute that happens. Mm-hmm. Then as soon as it happens, they can process the restructure on their own and clear 17 of that, okay? So while everybody's saying they still got to get $12 million to get under, that's true. In order to add DJ Moore, they kind of need to do that. They will add him, and then they'll clear $17 million on top of the other, things that they've done here. To me, guys, I mean, I don't know the exact money now because a lot of it's moving parts right now. Like, to me, they'll have enough money. This isn't even a Dawson Knox restructure or whatever's going to happen with him. We don't know. This isn't even a Josh Allen restructure that we don't know. Hasn't happened yet. Is it going to happen? It seems like it very well could. They'll have enough money to put up front to go and get somebody because they can spread stuff out, just like they did with Ed Oliver, by the way, by giving him 2 void years and spreading that money out. So, yes, to answer your question, Jeremy, yeah. I think they can do it.
One more thing before I let you go, Sal. On Dawson Knox, is there a ticking time bomb? Does it have to happen before the start of the league year, or do we feel like it just very, very likely will because that cap hit is exactly one of the things that kind of gums things up at a time like this?
Yeah, I think it's more of the very likely will. It doesn't actually have to happen. They can transfer. I have to look on the date of it, but I think it has to happen a little bit after the league year anyway, where they can process the roster bonus into a signing bonus, and that can spread out. So they do have a little bit of time there. But, I mean, at the end, they could keep him on the team at that cap hit. I just don't think it's going to happen at $17 million. Yeah. The fact that we didn't hear anything about Dawson Knox being released with Taron Johnson, and of course now we know he's not actually released, he's going to be traded, with Taylor Rapp, with Curtis Samuel. When the Bills did that the other day and Dawson Knox's name wasn't on there, to me that's an encouraging / positive sign they're working towards doing something else with his contract. I would expect that, but there's always a possibility they could still release him. Yeah. They could make him a June 1 cut, or like we just said, they could restructure his contract.
Yeah, restructuring, like looking real quickly, restructuring saves them the least. So they might want to extend / get a salary because he doesn't have a lot of guaranteed money, right? So they could, hey, why don't we extend you for another year? And the cap hit comes down, and we're asking you to take a little less in the future, but you're getting more guaranteed because he doesn't have a lot of guaranteed money. So whatever. Sometime in the next 72 hours, I would imagine we get something on Dawson Knox, and maybe there's still.
It's a good point, Jeremy. Restructure might not be the right word for him. It's more about either extension. Right? I mean, because of only having another year left in this deal, like you don't have a lot of place to put it. You'd have to add void years. They would basically kind of do what they did with Ed Oliver in this situation, I think. You know what I mean? And then you could add void years and you could restructure that way. So restructure is a thing here, but yeah, I would expect something to be done with Dawson. But I do think they can play in the pool if they want. There might be some more work to do to get there. But after the DJ Moore trade gets processed, they're going to be real tight. Then they're going to trade for DJ Moore to kind of make it fit, and then they can process that restructure, which we expect them to do. That'll clear $17 million. You don't need necessarily that money up front to sign a bigger player. You can basically take a lot of that money and give him, a deal where the cap hit is pretty minimal up front.
Breaking just now, the Dolphins have released or will release Tua. Official.
All right, just cut him.
And I'm guessing that's going to be a June 1st release?
I
think it almost has to be because I think if they don't, it's like $100 million. I don't know if they can do that.
So Tua will be released. Yeah. He led the league in passing in 2023, 12 games over 500 in 6 seasons. He will be released. They take a $99 million dead hit, split over 2 years. So that does mean it's post June 1 in that case?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to clarify, because this happens every year, and I got it again last week, and it's okay. I don't expect everybody to know all the CBA rules and how everything gets processed here, but when it's a post-June 1 cut, like in this case for Tua, he becomes a free agent immediately. So he can sign with any team immediately, but the team has to carry him on their books at his original cap charge until June 1st. Then they can open up the money for this year that they clear, and they're still going to get charged with that half the dead cap this year, half next year. So that's what a post-June 1 cut does. It's not that the player doesn't become a free agent until June 1. The player becomes a free agent immediately, but the team still has him on the cap. He's not on the roster, but the cap charge is there until June 1. The other part about June 1 cuts, every team is only allowed to do 2 of those before June 1st. After June 1st, obviously, they can cut anybody.
Right. And a lot of times I feel like when we talk about that, Sal, it's in the other way, right? It's you don't get the room that you create by cutting a guy until June 1, whereas in the Dolphins' case, I think he costs more being released, so they actually, I guess, they wouldn't do it anyway. They just have more time, I guess, to clear the space.
I mean, this is total reset mode for the Dolphins, right? I mean, I was when I was in Florida last week, a buddy of mine's a big Dolphins fan, and he said something that a lot of other people have said to me, which is they're finally doing it right, and that's fine. And I get it. Like, you're in a situation where maybe you got to do this to reset it, but there's no guarantees there, right? I mean, we've seen it happen here in hockey, and we've seen it in Cleveland in football, and the Jets in football, and where other places. Like, you can have this idea to reset it and do it right, so to speak. It guarantees you nothing, and we'll see where it goes for them. But they are. I would say, though, that I think the general sentiment is kind of the Dolphins kind of have to do this right now.
Yep. Sal Capaccio. Sal, thank you.
All right, guys.
We'll see if the Dolphins make more moves, like maybe trading Jalen Waddle. I mean, they said goodbye to, Bradley Chubb, said goodbye to Tyreek Hill.
I mean, really,
now Tua is released.
The next 2 guys will be Waddle, and it will be Achane. Are they going to pay Achane an extension when they're going to the bottom?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you trade him too?